Hello there, everyone. It's Sunday in time for a new episode of Record Collecting with a Quill. This week, I found myself having sort of a record collector's writer's block or something. I have a bunch of ideas in my head, but nothing really feels finished. So when I sat down here and just started thinking, what should I do this week? I didn't really have any good ideas or finished ideas. And I started listening to a bunch of records and trying to find a little bit of an inspiration. But nothing really came to me. But during this whole period, I listened to a lot of cool records. I thought, hey, why don't you just make an episode of what you've been listening to today? So that's what I will do. And I decided to call this episode Sunday Jams. I've been listening to a lot of new stuff, a couple of new albums I got lately, and also some older stuff as well, and a couple of bootlegs actually as well. So before we start, you know the drill. Make sure you subscribe and hit that little notice bell, and also share with your friends. Waking up this morning, I had a look on Facebook and I saw some posts that Lindsey Buckingham in Fleetwood Mac turned 72 years today. So I thought that's a good way to start this Sunday by listening to a little bit of Fleetwood Mac. And I decided to go with this album, Tango in the Night, their biggest 80s album. I've always been really fond of this one. I remember when it came out, and I was quite fond of the singles from this album. You have Big Love, you have Little Lies, you have Everywhere. Christina has some really strong songs on this one as well. And I've always been fond of it. It was a turbulent time for the band, and Lindsey left the band just before they were about to go on tour for this album, so he never toured it. But as I said, some really strong songs, but my favorite track is actually the title track called Tango in the Night. It's a super heavy track hidden among all those fantastic pop songs. Some really cool heavy drumming from Mick Fleetwood and some fantastic singing from Lindsey Buckingham. So I'll say happy birthday, Lindsey. I don't think you will see this episode, but he's made some really cool stuff, both his solo albums and with Fleetwood Mac. So I started out with that one. Next one, we got the news this week that Diamond Dave is retiring. So I thought there you go. I thought I'll listen to a little bit of Van Halen, and this is a bootleg called Die Laughing from Pasadena, December 1977, when they were in their prime, I guess. They were a fantastic live band. The playing, the singing, the harmony singing from Michael Anthony, and this is a soundboard recording. It sounds really good actually for being recorded in the 70s and for being a bootleg. And I think this one is probably, you could probably find it on YouTube if you want to give it a listen. But hats off to David Lee Roth for a job well done. He is certainly a legend in the rock community for all his work, both as a solo artist and with Van Halen. This is a cool album. I haven't been talking a lot about bootlegs so far in this series, but I have tons of them, so I think I'm saving up for maybe a special episode or a couple of episodes about them. There's some really cool stuff to be found on bootleg albums as well. Next one is an American band, also from 87. I believe it's the same year Tango in the Night was released. This is an American band called the Brandos, and the album is called Honor Among Thieves. And this album, I actually got it this summer, but I got it in a record store in northern Sweden, and the guy in the store asked me what kind of music I was into, and I said, general rock music. Do you like Springsteen and Tom Petty and all that stuff? And yeah, of course I do, I said. And then he turned me on to this album. They've done tons of albums, actually, or a handful of them, but they never really made it big. I think they're still playing in America. and they toured quite a lot in Europe over the years. But this is the first album, and was a really nice surprise. There's some fantastic songwriting on it, and I'm really fond of the singer Dave Kincaid's voice. Sort of a kind of a rough voice to it, which makes it stand out a little bit within this great songwriting. So if you haven't heard it, I think I'm pretty sure it's available on Spotify and on all those major outlets. Give it a listen. It's a great album. It's always really nice when you found those sort of hidden gems, stuff that's been out for a long time but you haven't listened to. And speaking of hidden gems, I got this album this week. This is a brand new album by a band from Stockholm called Freedom. And this was a fantastic surprise. It's been out, I think, digitally for a couple of, I think it was released this summer, but the vinyl, they pressed only 200 copies of it, and I managed to get one copy from them. And this is also for all you people who are into Springsteen and Tom Petty and early Bryan Adams. I also hear a little bit of Neil Young there as well, and some great songwriting. Really, I've been listening to this quite a lot. As I said, first digitally, and was happy when it was released on vinyl as well, so I could get my hands on a copy of it. But I suggest you give it a listen. It's going to be really nice to follow these guys to see what they do in the future. But a great album. Freedom, it's called. Next one. This is a local cult classic. This is a band called Plebb, and the album is called Yes, It Isn't It. This was released in 1978 in Mönsterås, the town where the QUILL hails from. And it was a private recording made by a couple of young guys. They made it, I think they lent some recording equipment and recorded it in some house they borrowed from someone. And it was released among friends in the 70s, but over the years, I think somewhere in the early 90s, this one became a cult classic. And nowadays, the original pressing is you can't afford it. I think I saw somewhere on Pop Psych or something that it's been sold for the highest amount. I think was 2,000 euros for one copy, and usually it sells for somewhere around 500 or 1,000 euros. And I haven't got an original copy. A couple of my bandmates have it since they knew these guys growing up. But it's been re-released by I believe a label from Portugal, and it's a really beautiful re-release. There's some cool inlay cards as well. Oh. So you get a lot of information about the album. There's actually a small booklet and photos from way back, and also the lyrics. So it's a really nice re-release. And how does it sound? Well, it's great guitar playing, and I think that's the main reason it became a cult classic. Maybe a little bit weak in the singing department, but the guitar playing is fantastic. So give it a listen. I think it is available on Spotify as well. And if you have a lot of money, you can buy the original release from '78, or you can buy the reissue now, which is also remastered from the original master tape. So it sounds really nice. And the last one, when I listened to a little bit of Van Halen, I also decided to give this one a spin. Led Zeppelin, Going to California. This is an old bootleg from the 70s. It was recorded in Berkeley in 1971. And this is one of the better audience recordings from Led Zeppelin in those early years. And this one is sounding great, and also they play fantastic. It's probably one of the best recordings I've ever heard of Jimmy Page. His guitar playing is fantastic, here, and also Robert Plant singing is really cool as well. I think the recording is incomplete. This is a 2-disc set and an old classic among Zeppelin collectors. And it's also available, so you can listen to it if you want to give it a listen on YouTube. The sound is a little bit rough in the beginning, but it turns out really good at the end. And whenever you listen to bootlegs, your ears sort of adjust and adapt to the sound. So it's a really cool one as well. As I said, it's an old classic. And you have a flying pig there as well. Well, it's time to wrap it up. But before we end this episode, make sure you follow us on social media. There's a lot of stuff happening right now. We're soon doing our first show here in Oskarshamn, where I live, and then we're doing a couple of shows with Evergrey in Sweden, and then we're going out and playing Europe in January. So hope to see you all there. You find all the tour dates on our social media. That's it for now. Cheers, and see you all again next week. Bye.